appreciate a couple minutes here with the athletic director from the Aztecs on the Mighty 1090. Mr. Sterk, good to talk to you.
Darren, thanks for having me on.
Well, I know it's always been under better circumstances than this, but as the go-to person for us for all things to do with San Diego State athletics, I think it goes without saying that this has just been a terrible week for everybody.
Yeah, I've been thinking about we were on such a high from we've had a great year athletically, and 10 teams went to postseason, and we had a track athlete win a national title last week, and then have Kawhi and the Spurs win a championship, and he's MVP, and then get thrown, in baseball terms, a heck of a curveball or a changeup or something, and it was a real low Monday. When we heard the news, and it's not as bright on the Mesa as it usually is, but I do know that Tony cared deeply about this place, and he wanted things, obviously to continue, and he wants the Aztecs to have success. So we're trying to do that.
Legacy is an interesting word, Jim, as you know, and clearly this is a person that has legacy not only in San Diego, all across the United States. Heck, even globally, people know the name Tony Gwynn. What about specifically up on the Mesa? I mean, what sort of legacy does Tony Gwynn leave behind at San Diego State?
Well, I think, one, we were all blessed to have worked with him, and I've talked to the tennis coach that had his office right next door, and Gene Carswell, and just anybody that had contact, whether it was our grounds people or anyone that worked around the program or even outside of it in the department. As I think everyone has said, I've listened to a lot of your stuff and saw a lot of stuff on TV. Just people talking about Tony. It's more about the person than all of his accomplishments, as a Hall of Famer and all. And that's the part that I know, because I've only been here 4.5 years, but I know the person and knew the person, and that's what you remember about him, and his laugh and his caring deeply about the Aztecs.
Talking to Jim Sterk, San Diego State Athletic Director at San Diego Sports Leader, the Mighty 1090. People may have noticed this last week, Jim, that there was an announcement coming from the athletic department about a contract with Tony, and unfortunately it was just literally, it was like a matter of hours, a couple days later, that he ends up passing. The idea behind the contract extension was what exactly? Did you guys have hopes and expectations that he would be back?
One, we didn't know. We knew, he was seriously ill, but had hoped that he could come back, and that's what we wanted to do, is make sure that the door was open and that he felt he could. And speaking to Alicia just a week before he passed away, that coaches, he really appreciates it. He wants to. He wants to get back there, and we're hopeful that he can. And so, I'm not sure exactly, what happened in the last week, but I think he, definitely took a turn for the worst, and then passed on Monday morning. But we were hopeful that he could come back, but we had wanted to make sure that, what he wanted to get done with our assistance in securing baseball's future was in place, and so that's what we did.
Yeah, because it strikes me, and again, you and I haven't spoken. I don't think you and I have actually spoken since the day the basketball team played up against Arizona. What it says to me, and I think it's where you guys, I think you deserve a lot of credit here, because number one, I'm positive that you guys knew exactly how severe this was, and you never went public with it. Number two, though, it's the type of thing that I think is done to help put somebody's mind at ease. And I know that you're not searching for credit and you didn't ask for credit, but I'll bring it up. And I think that that's the way I read the situation when you guys made the announcement that you guys were extending his contract.
Well, I appreciate that, Darren. And we're trying to do, what was right, to Tony, and we did want him involved as long as he possibly could. And so we wanted to make sure that was forefront, and if that helped him get healthy and be able to do it, then we did the right thing. But I think, even though it ended up, where it didn't, turn out, I'm glad we did it, and I know that both him and his family appreciated it, and we're we're at a huge loss without him, but we do have to continue, and that's what we're trying to do.
The thing that always stands out to me, Jim, and we're talking to Jim Sterk, athletic director at San Diego State. A lot of people thought when he took that job it was just going to be a hobby for him. And you had a chance to work with him day in, day out. I mean, he took it as seriously as anybody takes their job any place in sports, right? I mean, I'm not just saying that as lip service now to try to say something nice about Tony after he's passed. I mean, everybody thought okay, he's doing it to pass the time. I mean, he really competitive about it.
Yeah, he was, and he cared so much about being that person and leading the baseball team that he had been a part of as an athlete and had watched when he was in the pros and then had come back as a volunteer first and then as the head coach. And so he cared deeply about the program, and we talked about how do we continue to improve, and really saw an uptick in the last 2 years of the fruits of their labors of building the program. And I think it took them a while to understand that recruiting process in baseball is so unique, where you can get commitments from the best guys, but then the pros have a shot at them before they can even come to your place. So I think that whole science behind that, he was getting a real handle on it, and you can it shows because of the kind of kids that we've had, and we have more 3-year kids and more 4-year kids that are involved in the program now.
The other thing too is we're talking specifically about the baseball side of things, which makes sense. He's known for his baseball career and for being the head coach there at San Diego State. But you take a quick peek in through the record books of the basketball program, and I know this has been brought up a lot in the last 48 hours, and people in this market don't need to be reminded of this. But it's still, you flip through the pages of the media guide, and you'll see the name Tony Gwynn quite a few times on the basketball side too.
Yeah, absolutely, and he loved it, and that's I said he would have loved Kawhi winning, and hopefully he got that word before he passed. But I think that was for Kawhi win the MVP. I mean, that's the pinnacle of the basketball in the United States, and I think he loved it that an Aztec won that. And so I think he cares about it. We're replacing the gym floor in Peterson Gym, and he played on that floor, and the Michael Cages of the world played there, and someone told me Lou Alcindor played there, or Wilt Chamberlain played there at one point. So we've had a lot of people come through, but none a better person than Tony Gwynn.
Last thing for you, Jim. You have plenty of time to think about this. I mean, is there anything that you guys have kicked around as a staff, as a department, a way to memorialize Tony? I mean, it's tough when his name's already on the stadium, but is there anything, that you guys will have thought about doing here for the next calendar year?
Yeah, so, a few things, and we've talked to some of the players, and some people don't know that there's a little museum in our baseball stadium, in Tony Gwynn Stadium, and really people don't get to see that, and we need to do something to really showcase that more, because a lot of it is his memorabilia in there and his significance there, and so we want to do something with that. And I know the baseball team has talked about having TG on their uniforms, and I think he'll be close to their hearts for a long time, and especially Mark Martinez, that's worked with him for a long time here and been a long time assistant, and so he'll keep that legacy alive and continue with that. But as far as I know people are wondering when are someone going to do something public, and the Padres, and I've talked to Ron Fowler, and we're going to be working with them to do something. But we've been sensitive to the family and what in their timeline, and so we're just waiting on all of that before we try to do anything.
Jim, thank you very much for taking time out for us. We do appreciate it.
Oh, Darren, thanks so much.
Thank you. Jim Sterk, athletic director at San Diego State. And again, he's not coming on the air here to get praise, but I will give it because I do know, and I don't know from him, because like I said, I haven't spoken to Jim Sterk since the NCAA tournament, the basketball NCAA tournament, but I know that they, in following along with the wishes of Tony and his family, were very, very protective about no details here, and that's not easy to do in this day and age, even in a weak media market like this, with assistant coaches, with players, with people that hear things, social media, not easy to do, and they really paid a ton of attention to the wishes of the Gwynn family about privacy with how sick Tony was here down the stretch. 150. Our thanks to Jim Sterk. We will be back. San Diego Sports Leader. It's the Mighty 1090.